Good morning, guys. This is my old reliable Trek hybrid bike. A lot of fun. But this is a Swytch bike. So in the space of about the last hour, I converted my Trek bike into an electric bike. We're going to take a look at what it takes, but it's actually pretty simple. And when you're done, you not only have pedal assist, but in this case with a thumb throttle, we can just gas it and go. Now, I ordered 2 of these kits, one for myself, one for my wife. Mine came first, hers hasn't been shipped yet. We bought them specifically so that we could ride further and that she could struggle less on some of the hills, and I admit I struggle on some of the hills too. So what we're going to do now is get on a helmet cam and take a ride and see how this thing actually works. But before I do that, we'll take a quick look at some of the changes that I had to do when I installed this. Alright, so what's involved? Really not a lot. When you buy this, you get a new front hub with the motor built into it. It's made for a 10mm fork slot. Mine just fit. You have to back the bolts off a little bit and get it to line up correctly. So first step is to put that on. Very, very simple. Second step is this pedal sensor. Mine went right on. You strap it to your crank. When you route the cables, obviously be very careful of any of your brake cables or shift cables that may be in the way there. Then the handlebar mount mounts the battery pack, which is really, really straightforward. In my case, I've got this little Shimano gear indicator that I had to take off. For the time being, I just have a cable tie holding that on. Nothing to it. And then this is the thumb throttle. And I'm not quite sure if when I crank the thumb throttle all the way, it gives me full power, or if it's full power depending on how fast I'm pedaling. I've got to do a little bit of research and just make sure I have that configured the right way. Otherwise, absolutely nothing to it. And let's go for a little ride and just see how effective this thing is. All right, so we're gonna go for a little test ride. Now, I mentioned that I bought this, hey Dolly, because of some of the hills. So my wife and I live in New York, and we live on top of a pretty big hill. And we live about 4 or 5 miles, let's say 4 miles from a bicycle path, which is pretty cool. And what we end up doing is throwing the bikes in the back of my truck or on a bike rack, and we ride down there because there's a lot of hills in between. We ride on the bike path, and then we put the bikes in the truck and come back. So one of the things I want to be able to do is not have to use the truck. Ride there, ride back, and not be killing myself on these giant hills. So today, for our test, we're going to go on a little 3-mile jaunt that I run just about every day. And there's a couple of hills in there, as you're going to see. Nothing crazy. And we're going to finish coming up my driveway here. So I've got this thing on, or I'm going to put it on power mode 4 when we get started. And that's because some of these hills are, long, and I'm not quite sure that that 2 or 3 is going to cut it. So I'm going to get this thing on my head, and let's go for a ride. Okay, so I'm not sure what the field of view is here, but you can see I've got a full battery. I am on power mode 4, and we're gonna go. I apologize for the wind noise, but let's see how we make out. Now, one thing I noticed right away, the power doesn't kick in for a couple of turns of the pedals, which is a little weird. All right, here we go. You can see I'm in a low gear. then that power kicks in, and this is a slight incline. And I'm not even trying. I'm on my middle sprocket, and I've got 8 gears in the back. So this is effectively 16th gear. Busy road today. We're going to come back up this hill. So the hill that we're coming up to, I would typically be in a much lower gear and half standing up. So I downshifted there a little bit so that I can keep the pedal velocity going. Now I've got to try here, but not quite, actually nowhere near as hard as I would normally have to. Alright, you'll see when we come back. That was not an insignificant little hill. This hill's a pain in the ass. I am in about 6th gear, still on that middle sprung. Only because I want the pedals moving. Alright, so I'm putting in a little bit of effort here. However, I'm making pretty good progress. Just keeping the pedals moving. And this is a heck of a lot easier than if it was just me. If I stop and just give it the gas, it'll pull me along, just not that fast. Again, this is where we started. You can see, hopefully, just a little bit of a slight incline. Didn't even feel this. This is a lot of fun. When that motor kicks in, you can feel it. Alright, hill. In my driveway. And that is 0 effort. Wow. That was pretty cool.
Alright, so what are my initial first impressions? Actually pretty good. You know, in that little 3-mile run, there's a couple of reasonable hills in there that would have me sweating, and in many cases standing up on the pedals. None of that. Flew right through it. In fact, you know, did that ride in probably, I don't know, 2/3 of the time that it normally takes, maybe even less than that. And it's a lot of fun on the flat. You can really get going, and you really don't have to try, as you can see when I passed that guy who was actually putting a lot of effort in. Got a lot more testing to do. I want to take it on some extended rides and see what kind of battery life we can get. Then I'm going to take it up some of the really big hills and see how that works. So you guys can look forward to seeing that soon. Until then, thanks a lot, and thanks for watching.